Now we're moving on to the way too early first look week 1 stud wide receiver prices. Here at the top we got Davante Adams at $8,100, which I expected that. I thought maybe Justin Jefferson would be a little more expensive since he's getting taken earlier in some of the drafts on Underdog, and we've kind of noticed a trend that these prices so far have been kind of around the same ADP as some of these guys that are being drafted on the Underdog app, which I think it's kind of been like that for the last 2 seasons. So yeah, Davante Adams at number 1, $8,100. I kind of like this matchup. I'm curious to see what this offense is going to look like with Derek Carr throwing Davante the ball. I think this is probably going to be a smash play for playing Davante Adams. He's a little pricey, and the Chargers players are a little pricey, so it might be hard to put him in there. That's why you, like I said in the quarterback segment, that you need to play Derek Carr if you're playing Davante Adams, because I don't think you'll be able to fit Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, and Davante Adams, or Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Davante Adams. It'll be pretty tough to do. But of course, we're going to get a lot of value, so by week 1, this could be a big possibility to fit all those guys in there. Then we'll go on to Justin Jefferson, who by far is my favorite wide receiver on this slate. I think he's got some great opportunity here against Green Bay. I think this game is going to be overlooked in a stack perspective. Aaron Rodgers doesn't have a lot of weapons, and we'll get to some of those here in a minute. Kirk Cousins isn't that much of a popular quarterback, so this game could go a bit overlooked, and Justin Jefferson could go a tad underowned. I doubt it, but it's a possibility. Deebo Samuel, $7,400. I like this price point for him, going to Chicago to face the Bears. I could see Deebo Samuel being overlooked even more than Justin Jefferson because Trey Lance is throwing on the ball. There's a little bit of uncertainty there. But as we get closer to week 1, I think we'll have a better idea of what ownership these guys are going to garner. Jamar Chase at $7,100 is pretty cheap. Keenan Allen, $7K flat. I think it's a little too expensive. Especially the history that Keenan Allen has had against the Raiders. He's only averaged like 13 fantasy points against the Raiders in his last 4 starts. Mike Williams, the same thing. I think his was a little less. I think it was like 11 or 12 fantasy points averaged in his last 4 starts against the Chargers. Then you got Tyreek Hill at $6,800 against the New England Patriots. It's just so weird seeing Tyreek Hill as a Dolphin. I don't know what to make of this game yet. I kind of like this environment. I think Tyreek Hill is a perfect GPP play. I think a lot of people are going to play him in the wrong kind of tournament, and it's either going to go really well or it's going to go really bad. I don't know if I have a lot of faith in Tua yet to get Tyreek the ball consistently, especially against a Bill Belichick-led defense. I don't know how much of this game I'm going to get into. Then we get to Terry McLaurin at $6,500. I like this. Jacksonville was terrible against receivers last year, and we already said we had interest in Carson Wentz in this game in general. So I'm going to want some Terry McLaurin at $6,500. I think he's a tad bit too expensive. I would have rather seen him closer to the 6,000 range or maybe the 61, 62 range. But 65 is still not that bad. And I think this is going to be the year Terry McLaurin takes off. I think he's going to get back to where he was supposed to be at this point last year. Really big excitement for him. And surprisingly, A.J. Brown's only $6,400. I thought maybe he would have been a little higher up. I really did think he would have been more expensive than Terry McLaurin. $6,400 is pretty cheap for A.J. Brown, which makes me kind of want to cause a pause on A.J. Brown because that's kind of cheap and it's a little too good to be true. There might be some underlying factors that we don't know that maybe the Draftkings pricing knows. about AJ Brown. And I've kind of been in the mindset here lately in some of my season-long drafts, taking Devontae Smith instead of AJ Brown, and that might be what I might do for Week 1. We still got some time to think over this process, but just this look at these prices here makes me think AJ Brown could be a bad play for Week 1, just because he's going to be popular. Jalen Waddle at $6,400. No interest there. You got Tyreek Hill up at $6,800. You're telling me that the talent between Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle is just $400 less? I don't think so whatsoever. I think Jalen Waddle is really overpriced, or Tyreek Hill is not priced high enough. We're going to find out that in Week 1. Right now, I don't really have a pulse on that situation. Brandon Cooks at $6,300, I think it's a little too expensive for me, just due to the fact that he just hasn't done much. I mean, he has some really good games, and then he has some really bad games, and he has some games that are in between. This is something that we got to keep a little bit more of an eye on. Of course, the Colts are a team I want to stack. So, yeah, Brandon Cooks is going to be in that run back. But other than that, we don't have a lot to look at here for Brandon Cooks. And last on this stud wide receiver pricing list, we got Marquise Brown. Sorry, not AJ. And apparently, look, this is not good news for me to report, but Marquise Brown, first of all, suffered a hamstring strain, which I was already really mad about. But then a couple of days later, he gets caught speeding. Hopefully that's all it was. It was a speeding ticket. He was detained, though, so for some reason that was a part of the news yesterday. So hopefully it's not as big as everyone's making it out to be. Hopefully he doesn't miss any games, but unfortunately it looks like he could be suspended for a couple games, which kind of decreases my interest in Kyler Murray a tad, because we first get DeAndre Hopkins suspended, then they trade for Marquise Brown, now he's getting suspended. But it does lead me to be a little more interested in a couple more of the Cardinals wide receivers that we're going to get into a little bit later on. But yeah, it's a shame that Marquise Brown is having all this happen to him all around the same time. Hopefully we can get some of this cleared up for Week 1. But yeah, so let's go ahead and move on to the mid wide receiver prices. Now we move into these mid-range wide receiver prices for our way too early first look. And on top of that list, we got our Amon-Ra St. Brown for the Detroit Lions at $6,100. A little bit of interest there, of course, for run back option purposes. We know that Jameson Williams, the wide receiver that the Lions drafted in the first round, will not be out there in Week 1. So he's still got some decent value there. Then at the same price point, we got T. Higgins for the Cincinnati Bengals. Someone else that I'm pretty interested in at that price point. He's got a questionable tag. He had some shoulder issues. I believe he had a shoulder surgery. It all went back good, so now we just got to hope his rehab's good in time for Week 1. DJ Moore, $6,000. Just not really interested in this game right now. Maybe my interest in it will get a little bit better as time progresses, but as of right now, no interest in DJ Moore. But I do have some interest in Deontay Johnson at $6,000 flat. You guys got to remember, Week 18, he was like $7,000+. And he was one of the top tier receivers. He ended off the season on a high note, and I definitely expect him to do the same in Week 1. Whoever the quarterback is, if it's Kenny Pickett or if it's Mitch Trubisky, I'm on this bandwagon of Deontay Johnson at this price point. This was one of the big things I saw that kind of just really stood out to me in this pricing. Then we move on to Amari Cooper. He's questionable with an injury. I can't remember if it was his foot or his shoulder, something of that nature, where he hasn't been practicing in training camp. So as of right now, no interest in Amari Cooper. Hopefully he's back by week 1. That's a pretty decent price point for Amari Cooper if he's 100% healthy. Hopefully he can get some kind of rapport with Jacoby Brissett. Then we move on to Hunter Renfrow at $5,800. I don't know if this is a good price point for him or not. We all know Davante Adams is now a Raider. I don't know how much this is going to affect Hunter Renfrow, if it's going to help Hunter Renfrow. This price point is kind of blah to me, looking at it for one of the first times. In my opinion, I'm not going to have to roster him very much if I'm using more Davante Adams. So as of right now, Hunter Renfrow is a small interest for me, but not a huge one. If you're doing a 3v1 stack, of course you're going to have some Hunter Renfrow in your Raiders stacks. But yeah, other than that, I don't really have much interest there. Michael Thomas at $5,700. I have some interest. I mean, we've been hearing pretty good things in training camp. This is all going to depend on who's the starting quarterback. I might still have some interest in Michael Thomas if it's Andy Dalton, but we all believe Jameis Winston's going to be back in time to play in week 1. So if Jameis is there, I'm definitely going to have some interest in Michael Thomas. Darnell Mooney at $5,700. Pretty interesting price point that you're pricing up a number 1 wide receiver at this price point. I know Justin Fields hasn't been very good, but Darnell Mooney should be priced a little bit higher than this. I think he should be right where DJ Moore and Deontay Johnson are. Same thing with Michael Thomas in a way. I mean, Michael Thomas has a little bit more to prove than Darnell Mooney. But yeah, hopefully that turns out to be a good pick. I like that price point, but I don't know if it can compete with the next guy. Allen Lazard, $5,600. Probably my favorite mid-range player just because he's taking the number 1 wide receiver role that Davante Adams had. I'm not saying that he's going to have the same production with that opportunity, but he's going to get more opportunity. He's going to average more fantasy points than he did last year, and that's just plain and simple fact. Aaron Rodgers has already came out and said, Allen Lazard is our guy. He's ready. And I know Aaron Rodgers and Allen Lazard probably, as I'm recording this, are somewhere throwing a ball together. So this theory that Christian Watson or Romeo Doubs is going to somehow be better than Allen Lazard after Allen Lazard has been there for 3 seasons now, I just don't see it happening. First of all, the same thing happened with Davante Adams. He got slowly put into the system. It wasn't just like an overnight sensation. It took time. Just like Aaron Rodgers when he was there. It wasn't an overnight sensation. That stuff took time. I think he's had a lot of time right now. And I think he's going to be completely overlooked for one of the best game environments on this slate. Now we move on to Robert Woods at $5,600. I want to like Robert Woods. I really do. But I don't know what Ryan Tannehill we're going to get. If we're going to get the Ryan Tannehill we got last year, I just don't know. I don't think he's going to try to force the ball as much as he did with A.J. Brown and Julio Jones there last year. That he was forcing the ball to those guys when he didn't really need to. I think he was better when he was spreading the ball around to everyone. When Corey Davis was there, when A.J. Brown was fairly young still, he spread the ball around. But once you get these star receivers, you feel like you got to target them over and over again. And I don't think there's not one in particular player that's better than another. And I really like the fact that we could see Ryan Tannehill in a balanced offense instead of force-feeding guys just because of their name and what they've done in years past. So that's something to keep an eye on as we're headed towards week 1. Hopefully Robert Woods is healthy by then. Like, he's recovering from an injury, ACL tear. he says he looks to be ready, but every player says that, so we'll just have to wait and see. Give it a couple weeks' time before we analyze that again. But yeah, those are my favorite mid-range wide receiver prices. Let's go ahead and move on to the last little bit of mid-range prices. To round out this mid wide receiver prices, we got Michael Pittman at $5,500. That's another pretty good price point. I feel like more people are going to be on the Michael Pittman price point than the Allen Lazard price point, and I think that's a huge mistake. Michael Pittman has Matt Ryan throwing him the ball. Allen Lazard has the reigning, defending MVP Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball. This doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But watch. In a couple weeks from now, when content starts rising up, this guy's going to get a lot of push. And, I mean, he probably will have a good game. I'm not saying that he won't have a good game, but Allen Lazard could have a better game. So, yeah, that price point from $5,700 to $5,500, we're going to have some big decisions to make. Because under Michael Pittman, we got Devontae Smith, and I just hyped him up just a little while ago. But we could also see Devontae Smith out-targeting A.J. Brown. I mean, how many times have we seen a player get acquired and it makes another player's job a lot easier? It gets him more wide open. I could definitely see that happen. I'm not saying that it is going to happen and it's a guaranteed thing, but we got to think about that kind of stuff when we're getting ready to roster players. So I'm just letting you guys know that's something that you should be thinking about when you're watching preseason games, when you're studying some training camp video. When we're getting closer to week 1, take those things into consideration. Adam Thielen, Minnesota Vikings wide receiver, $5,400 is a pretty good price. And he actually, in the last 4 starts he's had against the Packers, has had better games than Justin Jefferson has had. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. And I was watching an interview somewhere, I can't remember where, on YouTube, and someone was trying to say that the new coach of the Vikings, I believe his name's Kevin O'Connell, is considering trying to get Adam Thielen in more of a Cooper Kupp type role. I don't know how true that is, but that's just preseason talk, training camp talk, off-season talk. You can't take too much weight into that, but it is something to consider, and I do have interest in Adam Thielen at that price point. Pretty cheap for him to be as good as he is. That's pretty cheap. Then we move on to the DeAndre Hopkins. We all know he's suspended, so no interest there. Sad to say, and hopefully he can get back and produce at a high level like we know him for. And then Rashad Bateman at $5,300. He's like the only wide receiver worth naming on the Baltimore Ravens right now. You would think that they would have went out and got some receivers in free agency or in the draft, but I mean they're sold on Rashad Bateman, and I think we gotta be. I mean, he's gonna get a lot of targets, he's gonna get a lot of usage, so we just gotta put him out there and watch what he can do. Hopefully, he's not injury riddled like he was at the first half of last season, his rookie year. He's got a full off season under his belt. No injury designation as of right now, so that's a little bit exciting. And then to round this mid-range off, we're going to talk about Juju Smith-Schuster at $5,200. Definitely got interest in him. I mean, he's got the best quarterback in the league throwing him the ball, and he's supposedly the number 1 option, so why shouldn't we have interest in Juju Smith-Schuster? Yeah, he's taken some decline, but I mean, he had an aging quarterback throwing him the ball, and the quarterback couldn't get him the ball in certain spots. I mean, it was just a bad situation for everyone involved. But yeah, definitely got some interest in Juju Smith-Schuster at that price point. I'll be curious to see what happens as we get closer to week 1. But yeah, this is kind of a coin toss with Mecole Hardman, Juju Smith-Schuster, Sky Moore. I'm going to be interested to see what this team can do. But yeah, that's the mid-range wide receiver prices. We're going to go ahead and move on to the mid to low range wide receivers here next. Moving into this way too early first look, mid to low range wide receiver prices. We got Brandon Ayuk at the top of 5,200, same price as Juju Smith-Schuster. Look, the beginning of last year, I loved what Brandon Ayuk was doing. I don't know if he's going to get back to that state of his career again. He did have some good games towards the end of last season, so we'll see what happens there. But as of right now, not much interest. I got to see if I have more interest in Trey Lance before I even think about having interest in Brandon Ayuk. Christian Watson looks to be out for week 1. We're not 100% sure yet, but we'll keep you updated on that as we get closer to week 1. Christian Kirk at $5,100. If we got interest in Trevor Lawrence, we're going to have some interest in Christian Kirk. I still think he got tremendously overpaid, and he hasn't been very good to get what he got in free agency, so he's definitely going to have to prove that he earned that money when he plays his first game as a Jacksonville Jaguar. So, yeah, I got some interest in Christian Kirk. Elijah Moore, if I'm stacking Lamar Jackson, Elijah Moore is going to be a good run back option. And, yeah, that's about it. If I'm not playing Lamar Jackson, I'm probably not going to get to Elijah Moore. Jarvis Landry, I got some interest in him, but, man, he just disappointed so much last year. And I know it had a lot to do with the quarterback play, but you got to think in New Orleans, there's so many mouths to feed now. You got Michael Thomas back. You got Chris Olave back. You got Jarvis Landry. You got Traquan Smith. You got Adam Trotman. You got Alvin Kamara. I'm curious to see how they're going to use Jarvis in this offense. But as of right now, I got mild interest in him, but nothing too serious. Drake London at $5,000 looks good. I think I would rather play Treylon Burks, who's right under him, but that's going to be a big debate before week 1. What rookie wide receiver should we play? Drake London, Treylon Burks? Just something to consider. I'm leaning more towards Burks than London as of right now, but that could definitely change by the time we get ready to roster for week 1. Chase Claypool, questionable right now. I think they're trying to kind of veer him off of this team, not maybe cut him or trade him, but I think they're lessening his role. George Pickens and I can't remember the other guy's name. I think his last name is Austin. They both were drafted in this draft that just happened. I think they're trying to push those guys up and move Claypool down. That's just my opinion from just what I've watched and what I've heard. But I could be completely wrong on that. But yeah, I don't really have much interest in Claypool. I love Deontay Johnson, but that's about it for Pittsburgh. And KJ Osborne at $4,900 is too expensive in my opinion. I don't have much interest at all in KJ Osborne. You're telling me he's $500 cheaper than Adam Thielen? Is he that much? Is he as good as Adam Thielen? I don't think so. Maybe his role increases a little bit. We got to keep an eye on that in the off-season, preseason games. And then Sterling Shepard is out, so ain't much to talk about there. We'll get to some of his other wide receiver options here in a second. Corey Davis, $4,900. I got mild interest in both Elijah Moore and Corey Davis. I don't really like one more than the other. I guess I could say I like Elijah Moore a little bit more just because I think he's the guy that's going to get the big contract and he's playing for the big contract. Corey Davis has already got a big contract. And I think Zach Wilson and Elijah Moore kind of connect a little bit more maybe because they're both around the same age. So, yeah, that's all I really got to say about the Jets receivers until we get to the rookie they drafted. And then Kenny Galladay at $4,800. Don't have a lot of interest in him, but if he's 100% healthy, we got to watch out because the Titans were one of the worst teams against opposing wide receivers last year. So we got to think about playing Kenny Galladay, even though we might not want to, even though our brain is saying, what are you doing? Don't play this guy. He just disappoints us all the time. We might have to consider it for this week one. I really think we do. But yeah, those are the mid to low priced wide receivers. We're getting ready to move on to the 4K range wide receivers. Now we're in the way too early first look week one 4K wide receiver price range. And to top it off on the list, we got the Tennessee Titans wide receiver Nick Westbrook-Ikine. And not very much interest there. I will say he might have a little bit better rapport with Ryan Tannehill early on just because he was there last year. But other than that, I do like Robert Woods a little bit if he's healthy. Treylon Burks could be an interesting play, but I don't think Nick Westbrook-Ikine is going to be the guy there. DJ Chark, I think DJ Chark's going to be a great tournament play. A lot of people are going to play Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I think that's a mistake in some ways. I think DJ Chark's going to have an explosive week one. Could be the best run back option out of the wide receivers for Detroit. So that's something to keep an eye on. Like I was saying before, Detroit's one is I think I read somewhere that they were the most expensive offense in all of NFL. So if that's the case, then they gotta produce, right? So hopefully they do. Then Devontae Parker, 4,800 as well. I just don't have a lot of interest in this game, so I probably won't get there. Robbie Anderson, 4,800. No interest there. I just don't like that game right now. New England and Miami and Cleveland and Carolina, I can't grasp anything around it. Tyler Boyd at 4,800, I think is a little expensive. Robbie Anderson's definitely a little expensive, by the way. But Tyler Boyd at 4,800, I don't have much interest there. Sammy Watkins, I could get along with that. 4,700. He's the oldest wide receiver other than Randall Cobb on the team, so he does have a little bit of a veteran presence. I heard he was dealing with a certain injury, but he looks to be off the injury report and practicing with the team right now. So, yeah, I mean, if he's a full go, and I like Aaron Rodgers, of course, so why not give him some chances on a few rosters and in some tournaments. Large field, I don't know about small field. Valdez-Scantling, MVS, $4,700. I could definitely see him and Patrick Mahomes getting along. I forgot to bring him up earlier when we were talking about Juju Smith-Schuster. He could definitely be a guy that just breaks the slate. I mean, anytime he's gotten a big starting role, he's produced. He's one of the best deep threats in the league. He makes all the quarterbacks that he's played with better, which has only been Aaron Rodgers, but you know what I'm trying to say. Valdez-Scantling is someone you should be interested in. I probably have more interest in Valdez-Scantling than I do Juju Smith-Schuster at this time. Greg Wilson, the rookie for the New York Jets at $4,700. I don't know what to make of him yet. I know one of these rookie wide receivers is going to just ball out, and the rest of them are just going to be kind of meh or bust week one. We're getting to this point where we're just expecting guys like Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson just to happen all the time now. And I don't know if we're there yet. It's going to be pretty difficult to range where these guys are at. I know a few years ago, everyone was saying stay away from rookie wide receivers, and I feel like this year it could burn us. I mean, so many were taken in that first round. Not all of them are going to be Jamar Chase. Not all of them are going to be Justin Jefferson. So we just got to kind of keep our eye on those things as we get closer to week one. I know we're going to learn a lot when we get closer to the preseason because we're going to see some of these guys in pads playing with their starting quarterbacks. So we'll slowly progress on these rookie wide receivers as we get closer. AJ Green, $4,600. He might be the number one option if Marquise Brown gets suspended. So that's definitely something we got to keep an eye on. I mean, this is supposed to be the heaviest total to game for week one, the Chiefs and the Cardinals. So if AJ Green, I mean, if he's the number one wide receiver for the Cardinals, we're gonna have to watch out because that's a pretty good price point, and he's after Marquise Brown, he's the next wide receiver up for the Cardinals. So definitely something to keep an eye on. Mecole Hardman, he's one of the most longest tenured wide receivers on that depth chart right now for Patrick Mahomes. He has the most familiarity with Patrick Mahomes. So I think he's a great GPP play because people are going to be playing MVS. People are going to be giving chances to Juju Smith-Schuster. And they're going to forget all about little Mecole Hardman. And I hope he proves some people wrong. I'm rooting for him. I'm for sure going to give him some play as long as everything this offseason goes the way we think it's going to go. Chris Olave at 4,500. They got a lot of mouths to feed in New Orleans. We just talked about that with Jarvis Landry and Michael Thomas, and I don't know what to make of that situation yet. If Jameis Winston's a starter, I'm going to just have to have different variations of those players in and out of lineups. But as of right now, Chris Olave looks okay, but he doesn't stick out as a great value. Marvin Jones, on the other hand, the second receiver on... Wait. He's the number 2 receiver on the team. It's Christian Kirk, and then it's Marvin Jones. I still think, last year, let's talk about last year for a minute. Last year, he was underpriced, and I still think he's a little bit underpriced. Great value play. And I've already talked about in the quarterback segment and the running back segment, and now this segment, I'm talking about this game, and I really love this game environment. I hope I'm right about this. I'm going to take some shots on this Washington and Jacksonville game. Even though the point total is a little lower than what we expect, I hope it kind of rises as we progress closer and closer to week one. But as of right now, I really like this game, so I'm going to roster me some Marvin Jones. I might not like him as much as I did last year. If you watch my last year's video, I was huge on Marvin Jones, and we crushed it. But yeah, Marvin Jones is a great play at this price point. But yeah, that's the 4K range wide receiver prices. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next segment of 4K wide receivers. And the last little bit to round out the 4K range, we got Byron Pringle for the Chicago Bears at the top here at $4,400. Got a little bit of interest in him because he's clearly the number 2 option on this team, and that's a pretty good price point to be a number 2 option. I don't know how pass heavy Chicago is going to be. I don't have a lot of interest in this game as of right now, but seeing Byron Pringle at that price point is pretty good. Donovan Peoples-Jones is at $4,400. Here's one thing I will say. We saw Amari Cooper earlier in this segment at questionable. So if he's questionable, Donovan Peoples-Jones is the number 2 wide receiver on this team. So that could make him the number 1 wide receiver on this team if Amari Cooper decides not to play week 1. So that's something to keep an eye out for. That's some pretty good value if we can get him to be the sole number 1 wide receiver. Jacoby Myers at $4,300 just seems a little too cheap because I believe last year he ended the year around $5,000, $5,200, somewhere around there. He was definitely one of Mac Jones's favorite targets. So that's something to keep an eye on. Even though I don't have a lot of interest in this game, I can see value when I see it, and that's value right there for Jacoby Myers. Curtis Samuel, even though it doesn't say it on here, he's been dealing with some injuries, conditioning. Not a very good sign for the Washington football team. The Washington Commanders. So I don't know if he's going to be ready for week 1. I'll have some mild interest in him if he is. But as of right now, the reports are coming out not very good about Curtis Samuel. Darius Slayton, somebody else that we should be interested in at $4,200. New York Giants wide receiver, playing the Titans, one of the worst teams against wide receivers in fantasy last year. I say Slayton has got a shot at being one of those sleepers because I'm just going to go ahead and talk about him. We're going to skip Kendrick Bourne for a second. Kadarius Toney is at 4,100, and I watched a first look video, two first look videos on separate channels from other content makers, and they were all pushing Kadarius Toney, which they got pretty good sense to push him. I like him too as well. I think he's right now the best value at this price range. But Darius Slayton would be a tremendously good GPP play because this is a classic situation. Let me give you last year, for instance. You had Deontay Harris and Marquez Callaway for the Saints going up against the Packers. Marquez Callaway was pushed as this great value at $3,400, I believe, and Deontay Harris was, I believe, at like $3,100. And everyone played Marquez Callaway because everyone was talking about Marquez Callaway, how you should be playing him. In cash games, it was fine. But if you played him in tournaments, you likely didn't do as well as you hoped you would do. And Deontay Harris balled out. This would be a perfect scenario. Kadarius Toney hitting the field and Darius Slayton outperforming him. I think they're around the same talent range, and I think they're both priced appropriately. But keep an eye on Darius Slayton as a sneaky value play that no one's really talking about. They're all hyping up Toney with great reason, but just keep an eye on that. That's something to think about. Kendrick Bourne at $4,200, also a pretty good value. I mean, Myers and Bourne were just playing very well with Mac Jones before the end of the year. So I like both of those guys. Then we got George Pickens at 4,100. If Claypool is out, Pickens is probably a good value play, someone that we should consider. And I think we just found the best value play. We haven't had any rollings from Adam Schefter about Marquise Brown yet. He got pulled over, got a DUI, or not a DUI, but a speeding ticket or something. I need to look more into that. But as of right now, he's not suspended. But if he is, AJ Green or Rondale Moore are going to skyrocket to that number one wide receiver role. You also got to remember no DeAndre Hopkins for the first 6 games. So Rondale Moore could be at that buy low price that we need. And I'm sure if the news comes out that Marquise Brown's missing week 1, Rondale Moore's ownership will skyrocket. But as of right now, he's a good value play. He's a sneaky play. And you got to think, too, even if Marquise Brown gets to play week 1, he's also dealing with a hamstring injury, missing time in camp, probably not going to play in preseason. So that's reps he's not getting with Kyler Murray that Rondale Moore is getting. So with that being said, he still could be a good play. And he's someone I got highlighted, keeping an eye on. I really think this is going to be Rondale Moore's breakout year. And it could start as soon as week 1. So, that's the 4K range wide receivers. Let's go ahead and talk about these 3K range wide receivers real quick. Let's take a look at these 3K wide receivers real quick. At the top, we got Alec Pierce at $3,900. Pretty decent price point. I'm still kind of looking at if he is really as good as everyone's hyping him up to be. Sky Moore, same situation. Both of these guys, Alec Pierce and Sky Moore, are rookies. I would love for Sky Moore to be good and be that slate-breaking potential wide receiver, but we got to see it in the preseason. Right now, he's listed as questionable. I'm not sure what his injury designation is, but I'm sure he'll be fine and he'll be back for week 1. Devin Duvernay for the Baltimore Ravens. He's pretty much the wide receiver, too, for Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. You got to kind of like him a little bit. I mean, I don't know how much they're going to throw, but he's there, so he could get some opportunity. Then you got Velus Jones Jr. for the Chicago Bears. I got a little bit of interest in him. He was drafted kind of early, and maybe he might be the number 2 and Brian Pringle might be the 3. That's something to keep an eye on. David Bell out with an injury. Kevin Stefanski has said they're not bringing in any more wide receivers while David Bell's recovering from his injury. I can't remember exactly what the injury was. I don't know how serious it is. But all signs lead to him possibly being back for week 1. But all in all, I still don't have a lot of interest in this game, so not for me. And then we move on to Jahan Dotson for the Washington Commanders at $3,400. If the news about Curtis Samuel is true, what I talked about earlier, he's definitely somebody that I want a piece of. And I think he's going to be one of these wide receivers that no one's talking about, that, Carson Wentz is throwing the ball, so that means he's not any good, blah, blah, this, blah, that. I think Jahan Dotson can surprise a lot of people, and I hope we can see some glimpses of that in the preseason. Not too much, because then he'll be completely overhyped. Then we got Anton Wesley. This is the guy I've been looking forward to talking about this whole wide receiver segment. Wesley at $3,400. If Brown's considered to be suspended or out or whatever, Anton Wesley's going to garner a huge role. I don't know if you guys remember last season, he had some pretty big games towards the end of the year when Hopkins was trying to recover for the playoffs. This guy could very well be the number 1 receiver if AJ Green and Rondale Moore aren't. I mean, this guy's going to move up in a big way, and at that price point, that's tremendous value, and we definitely got to keep an eye on that. Paris Campbell, I hope he's come back healthy. I think he's a year removed from his ACL tear, so maybe he'll have a little more burst in his step this year. I really hope good things happen with him, because he just had some bad luck right at the beginning of his career. Who knows where he would be at now if he didn't suffer that injury. Danny Gray of the San Francisco 49ers, a lot of people are hyping him up. I don't know how valid this hype is. I'm not very interested in this game anyway, so that's kind of more of a wait-and-see approach for me. And then to bottom out this list, I just wanted to talk about Romeo Doubs. Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers has came out and said that Doubs has impressed Rodgers in camp. So maybe we might see more Doubs than we are Watson week 1, because Watson's dealing with the injury and hasn't been on the training camp field yet. So I think Watson's going to be strung along a little slowly. Doubs is going to get opportunities early in the year. So we got to keep an eye on that. But as of right now, that's my opinion on this Packers wide receiver core. It's Allen Lazard. It's Romeo Doubs. Got to keep an eye on Randall Cobb. And Winfield, I believe is the other guy's name that Rodgers spoke highly of a couple of days ago in an interview for NFL Network, I believe. So those are the guys to keep an eye on. I'm not sold on Watson right now. I don't know if he will even play week 1. So, yeah, that's my opinions on these 3K wide receivers. So let's go ahead and move on to who's the favorite stud wide receiver. Rounded out, our favorite stud wide receiver is Justin Jefferson. This matchup is just going to be so huge. One of the highest point totals on this week so far. It's just hard to pass this guy up. He's got huge upside, and I am ready to roster him in week 1, and you should be too. Our way too early favorite mid-range wide receiver has to be Allen Lazard at $5,600. Like I said, favorite game environment on the week. And I think Allen Lazard is going to end up going overlooked to guys like Michael Pittman or Juju Smith-Schuster or Michael Thomas, all in those same price ranges. But Allen Lazard has got the reigning, defending, 2-time MVP on his side. And I think he's going to elevate him to heights no one thinks he's capable of elevating to, taking that Devontae Adams role. So keep that in mind when you're getting ready to roster Allen Lazard. I believe he's going to be a sleeper. And our way too early favorite 4 to 3K range wide receiver has to be Kadarius Toney at $4,100. Just way too cheap for the role that he had last year. Ranked against one of the worst teams against opposing wide receivers in fantasy. So yeah, right as of right now, Kadarius Toney's one of the best wide receiver values in the 4K to 3K range. Well, there you have it for the Losers Win Again Fantasy Football channel. I'm your host, Jacob Brown. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and hit that notification bell. If you want to see more content, we have the tight end reaction video, we have the quarterback reaction video, and we have the running back reaction video available on the channel. And we also have a little refresher on cash game and GPP strategy released as well. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, if you got anything out of this video, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more content just like this. And don't forget to follow my socials. I have a Patreon where I will be updating a value projection page maybe in the next 2 weeks or so. Also have an Instagram, a TikTok, and a YouTube channel. Of course, that's where you found me. So yeah, go ahead and hit like, subscribe, find my socials, and we will see you next time on the Losers Win Again Fantasy Football channel. Thanks.